I heard you was interested in signing on to the Shadow of the Deep. Well, as it happens, we've just finished a bit of maintenance, and I was about to take her up for some tests. So, why don't you come aboard and I can show you around? She's a fine ship. I've been with her since the beginning, back when she had half as many guns, and those were half as good. This be the top hatch, and the auxiliary bridge. We'll use this to take the ship out of the pen, since we can see the moorings better from here. You can control the ship from here just as well as the main bridge. I'll take control of the ship and start her cruising forward. Now, you might be thinking there ain't as much chance for a plunder on the Shadow as you might get on one of them smaller ships, like a Minnow or a Trident. It's true. On a big ship, your share's gonna be split a mite many more ways than on one of them smaller tubs. And yeah, maybe some minnow captain gets lucky and bags himself a gray escort carrier and can retire a rich man. But maybe he don't. Maybe he never gets a shot on anything and goes broke. Here on the Shadow, we get bounties steady as a warm dawn tailwind. And I wager we'll live longer than most of them minnow air dogs. Now let's button up the hatches and head below decks. One thing you'll note on the Shadow, many of the lights have switches on them. That's so we can go dark so our prey don't see us. Now, here we be on the main bridge, and I can control the ship from here just as well. So, the Shadow has the stealth to make sure she gets the first shot, and the firepower to make sure that's the only shot she needs. That be the whole point of a submersible airship, ain't it? Now, I'll take her up out of the drink so we can give her some tests. Nice and easy. As I was saying, the Shadow be designed to take down her prey before they know what hit 'em. So she's got 3 weapons she can use. First is her main guns. She carries 10 heavy scattershot cannon that'll punch holes through the toughest armor. Next, she's got 20 fire guns, used for torching enemy ships what have been holed. Good for swatting them pesky Silver Empire fighters, too. Then she's got 5 fighters of her own. Usually we've got them Skull Squadron boys on board, and I reckon they're the best there is. So, she's got what she needs to deal with most anything. Now that we have some altitude, I'll test the rudder and bring us about. There we are. Prettiest city in the world, South Haven. Sure as the nether beats living in a cave. That's a joke for old-timers like me you wouldn't understand. We'll go a bit higher, so's maybe we can fly over the city later. You ain't never seen South Haven till you've seen her from the skies. Well, everything seems ship-shape as far as the tests go. Come on back here and I'll show you the rest of the ship. First, let me show you one of the gun ports. Now, she has 5 of the big guns along each side. See all this metal? Those are actually the ballast tanks. They're put along the gun ports for added protection to stop the enemy shells from punching through to the lifting cells. Now, imagine that you could somehow strip away all the lifting cells and the living quarters so all you see is the superstructure of the ship and the wiring. You'd see the heavy ballast tanks form a thick wall covering each side of the ship, right where enemy fire is most likely to hit. On the sides and the top half. The cannons are actually inside this thick wall, so they too are protected. So the enemy can't knock out her guns so easy. Then you've got the wiring. All the guns on the Shadow need signals from the bridge to work right. So, they're all bundled just as tight as they could be at the bottom of the ship, towards the middle. You've got 2 bundles of wires, one for the port weapons, one for the starboard. With them being low and to the center, it's not likely an enemy fire will cut the wires, so a lucky shot won't knock her weapons out of the fight. But enough of that, there's more of the ship to see. This is the main corridor, runs the whole length of the ship. All the passages on either side all lead to gun ports. If you go all the way to the end, you finally reach the engineering room. This is where the coal slingers keep the ship running. You load the fuel right here, in either of these furnaces. Next, I'll take you to the upper decks. We've got to go all the way forward again, past all the gun ports, and to the main stairwell. Up these stairs, we find the living quarters. Here's where we pass the hours while cruising to an ambush site. Then you've got ship stores for parts, supplies, and whatnot. Then we go up this passage to the crew quarters. Real cozy, ain't it? Next, we have the captain's quarters. Captain gets some nice, pretty bunking. But I suppose we can complain about that when we've built our own fleet up, starting with nothing. Now let's head back down the main stairwell towards the bridge. Now, if you turn around at the bridge and head down the stairs, you'll find yourself down in the hangar. Any repairs or rearming the guns, we do it all right here. It's a little harder to reload the torpedoes, since you can't reach them from inside. Someone has to climb outside of the ship to get that job done. I've heard it's like being keel-hauled. You climb into any of the fighters right here on the nose. Climbing out again can be tricky, but you can do it. Alright, let's head back. Give me a second. These old legs ain't worth much anymore. There we go. Just one more thing to show you. So let's head back upstairs into the bridge. Now, from the bridge, you have two gunnery stations, to port and to starboard. This is where you control all the ship's guns for each side. Hey, look, it's the Exeter apartments, where all the snobs live. You think we should? Nah, better not. Might be good for a laugh, but it wouldn't be worth feeling the cat for, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so the first thing is the light switch. Usually in battle, this would be off. This is the range limiter. Basically, if you throw this switch, it uses less propellant, so the shells don't go as far. This button actually fires the cannons. And then this switch starts the fire guns blasting away. Now, the only other thing is the fuse settings here on the ground. If these repeaters are extended to their maximum, then you'll have a long fuse. That means the shells will explode low in their arc, or after hitting the target most often. With the range limiter on as well, you can use it to shell targets on the ground if you like. But then if you want an aerial burst, or for the shells to explode high in their arc, then you reduce the number of clicks on these repeaters. Simple, right? Well, that's the lot. I hope you'll be joining up with us. We could always use some new blood around here, and it'd be a pleasure to have you with us.